Tonya Ward Singer, and I'm an author, public speaker, and a learning leader in schools. This summer, I was visiting my dad, and he has this bound book of papers passed down from his dad when he passed away. And I was flipping through this book. I'd flipped through it before, and there were a lot of family trees, which never really interested me. But this summer, I discovered in the back typed letters from the 1760s through the 1780s. And reading these letters, one is from father to son to Samuel Moffatt, one is from wife to husband to Samuel Moffatt. And through these letters, first I became very attached to these people. I could see a father who loves his son. I could see a wife who says, we just had a baby and I miss you and I want to join you. And I'm wondering, why is Samuel Moffatt far away? What is going on? I became engulfed in their story. And really, it was about 100 pages in to the letters that I saw one sentence that shifted everything for me, where the father's dying and he's saying, I'm sending on the ship your wife. He names a wife, names several family members and kids, comma, the 2 Negroes, comma, the furniture. And in that moment, I realized, whoa, my ancestors owned slaves. I didn't know this. Not only did I not know they owned slaves, but I didn't learn in my American history, and I was a good student, and I have a post-university education. I did not learn about slavery in New England. My ancestors not only owned slaves, but I learned on further research, thanks to some resources at the Moffatt-Ladd House, that the whole reason Samuel Moffatt was away from his family, and the whole drama of all these letters, really started with a pivotal moment where he and his brother-in-law had a slave ship called the Triton. And all that's known about that is that they lost a lot of money. And my understanding from the summary, which I think came out of a Harvard source, maybe a biography, I don't want to misquote this, but was that everybody died on that ship, or many of the people who were enslaved on that ship died. So, the first day I learned that my ancestors had maybe 2 slaves. That was one thing. The next day, in further research, I realized, okay, no, they also had blood on their hands for people who died in transit. I was surprised, and then I was outraged too that my history was missing. So I said, I want to uncover more of this history. I want to learn both about my ancestral roots and people I'm directly descended from, and I want to learn about the stories that are not being told in their letters. Because what was so painfully clear to me reading the letters was just the normalcy of slavery at that time. I was so happy first in my online search to discover the Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail and to see a lot of information available online. I said, I want to come here and be part of that trail. Also, invaluable to my research was reading Black Portsmouth by Valerie Cunningham and Mark Sammons. There's just such detailed history about what is known about the people who were enslaved in Portsmouth at that time. John Moffatt, who wrote the letters to his son, had the house built for his son. When Samuel's wife went to join him, they left behind a young baby. That was, her nickname was Polly. Of all their children, she is the one I'm descended from. She grew up in the house. And I just learned on this visit, too, that she was essentially raised by people who were enslaved by the family. And of course by her uncle and aunt, the Whipples. So I'm descended from her, their kid, basically everyone who lived in the Moffatt-Ladd house. That's the lineage I'm descended from. So on my dad's side. Yesterday was my very first time walking in the house. And it was, I'm even thinking in the morning, walking to the house. It was emotional for me because I was simultaneously noticing the shops of modern day Portsmouth. A beautiful little tourist town. I mean, not tourist town, but just gorgeous. Beautiful town. But I'm noticing the crisp air and the sky and the things that were probably the same in the 1700s. And then I arrive at the house, and the first thing I see is a chestnut tree, which I know is planted. The story is told it was planted by William Whipple after signing the Declaration of Independence, and what the Moffatt-Ladd historians assume is that it was probably planted by Prince Whipple, who was enslaved by William Whipple. But the first thing I did is I just went and put my hands on that tree, and I just looked up and thought about how, this is living. This was planted in the seeds of a different time, and it's right here to remind us how close we are to that history. I'd seen pictures of the entryway, so I had a sense of that. I would say what struck me the most was first just seeing how enormous it is from the outside, seeing the size. Just thinking about privilege and the history of privilege. Walking to the spaces, I think we were really focusing on the spaces of the house, and my question is always, what was it like to live in this home? What was it like to be enslaved in this home? What was it like to come in? We know most about Prince Whipple, and he came in around 10 or 11 years of age, which is the age of my son right now. So being in the kitchen and learning about, that my ancestors probably weren't doing the cleaning and the cooking and down here, and seeing all the rooms and going to the very top floor and seeing that the only bedroom that didn't have a fireplace was where people who were enslaved most likely slept. And thinking about what it must have been like to wake up cold before anybody else in the house and go and stoke the fires in all the other rooms so that my ancestors could wake up warm. I got a real feel, seeing the front staircase, that's really grand, great place to come down as a lady. And the back staircase, it's narrow, which I imagine was used more by servants and people enslaved in the early times. So walking into the house was powerful because I coordinated with Barbara Ward, the director of the house, about this research. And she's very committed to educating students, not just about my ancestors, but about people who were enslaved in the home, and getting some dialogue going about slavery and its impact. And my first visit to the burial ground was with students at the end of their day, which was one of my absolute top priorities coming here, because I know that given just what I've read about John Moffatt having a slave ship and William Whipple having a ship, people who were enslaved, I know that people buried there came here because of my ancestors. And I was feeling very emotional. It's a spiritual moment for me being there. We were looking at the Sankofa symbol, and I explained, okay, what I learned. Sankofa means go back and fetch it. Go back to the past to understand to understand the past, to create a better future. And I started talking to students. I said, I don't know if I can speak right now without getting emotional, because this is the first time I've been on this burial ground, and the reason I'm here today is because this summer I learned that my ancestors were involved in slavery, and I learned they were the Moffatt-Ladds, and I'm here on this trip, and I'm here with you today for the first time in these places to better understand that history. So for me right now, standing here on the sacred ground, it's a very emotional experience, both in terms of connecting to the past and in terms of seeing all of your young faces right now. And your commitment, what I hear is your commitment from the work that you're doing, the conversations you've had today, to creating a better future.